What is the reason for the lesser popularity of the title, Servant of the Lord, in reference to Jesus, in comparison to the widely recognized title, Son of God, despite the description given in the well-known book of Isaiah 42? The lesser popularity of the title, Servant of the Lord, in reference to Jesus, in comparison to the widely recognized title, Son of God, may be due to several reasons. One reason could be that the concept of a servant is not as commonly understood or revered in the same way as the concept of a son. In many cultures and religious traditions, the idea of a son implies a special and close relationship, while the concept of a servant may not carry the same connotations of significance. Additionally, the title Son of God has been more widely emphasized and popularized in Christian theology and Scripture, particularly in references to Jesus in the New Testament. This has contributed to its widespread recognition and acceptance among Christians. Furthermore, there may be a tendency to focus on the divinity and special relationship of Jesus as the Son of God, rather than emphasizing his role as a servant. This emphasis on divine status may overshadow the significance of the title Servant of the Lord in some interpretations of Christian theology. Overall, the lesser popularity of the title Servant of the Lord in comparison to Son of God may be a result of its historical and theological emphasis, as well as cultural and linguistic factors. Despite this, the concept of Jesus as the servant of the Lord is an important and meaningful aspect of Christian faith, as highlighted in the book of Isaiah and other biblical texts.
Muhammad is identified as a servant of Allah in the Quran. There are those who posit that the reference to the servant of the Lord in Isaiah 42, specifically verse 11, which mentions Kedar, may be alluding to Muhammad. How do they present and support this argument? Those who posit that the reference to the servant of the Lord in Isaiah 42, specifically mentioning Kedar, may be alluding to Muhammad, often present, and support this argument based on several key points. 1. Kedar's descendants. In Isaiah 42 verse 11, it mentions Kedar, who was the second son of Ishmael and, according to Islamic tradition, is considered the ancestor of the Arabs. The argument is that since Muhammad was an Arab, and he came from the lineage associated with Kedar, this reference could be an allusion to him. 2. Characteristics of the servant. The description of the servant in Isaiah 42 aligns with certain traits that are associated with Muhammad in Islamic tradition. The servant is described as bringing a new law, being a light for the nations, and engaging in conquest and warfare. Proponents of this argument argue that these attributes are consistent with the mission and actions of Muhammad. 3. Similarities in language and prophecies. Some commentators draw parallels between the language used in Isaiah 42 and certain prophecies and descriptions related to Muhammad in Islamic sources. They argue that linguistic and conceptual similarities between Isaiah 42 and Islamic teachings support the idea that Muhammad is the servant referenced in the passage. 4. Connection to monotheism. Proponents of this argument also highlight the emphasis on monotheism in Isaiah 42, which they relate to the monotheistic message of Islam and the role of Muhammad as a carrier of the monotheistic faith in the Arabian Peninsula. It's important to note that this interpretation is based on a specific reading of the text and is subject to debate and interpretation within different religious traditions. Not all scholars or religious authorities agree with this perspective, and there are varied understandings of the meanings and implications of the servant mentioned in Isaiah 42. Different religious communities and denominations may have distinct interpretations of these passages based on their particular religious and theological frameworks.